if you looked at if you saw any of the Flare trainings, a lot of what we're covering in here has been covered in a few of them, and we're kind of truncating it into one session that I think will be really interesting. And if you're familiar with InfoStealers, awesome. This will still be educational because we're going to talk about, a little bit more than just the InfoStealer itself and a little bit more about like how they're operationalized, a little bit of a peek under the curtain behind the scenes, and then a special attention given in this particular session to cookies. Cookies, like in the industry conversation about InfoStealer logs and stolen credentials, cookies don't get as much love as I think they deserve, and cyber criminals definitely agree. We'll show you lots of conversations they have around cookies, but cookies are just as valid. Session tokens are just as valid. I see all the cookie memes in the chat. Are just as valid a means of access as a straight up username and password. So we'll talk all about that. It'll be lots of fun. Um, and we've got a couple like steps here. One is talk about Stealer logs. What are they? Go from 0 to 1 of like what is a Stealer? When I say Stealer log, what do I even mean? And then we'll talk about cookies, how people steal cookies with info stealers, and then how they actually weaponize them in session replay attacks. And then a little bit about the economy behind cookies, which is also kind of just the economy of info stealers in general, which is also a subset of the economy of stolen data that exists in the world of cybercrime. So, Eric, if you wouldn't mind introducing us to first of all, yourself, and then what Stealer logs are.
Yeah, so my name's Eric Clay. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Flare. Although don't let the title fool you, I also am like weirdly obsessed with InfoStealer malware and the Stealer log ecosystem. I'm really fun at dinner parties. Like I'm really good at talking about this at dinner parties. Like, did you guys know there's 100 million people's information floating around on Telegram channels, and cyber criminals buy and sell it for fun? It's a real like I'm a real hit. But yeah, so this has been a research topic of mine for a long time, and my kind of specialty and interest here is in the ecosystem as a whole. So how do info stealer vendors operate, and how do they trade with each other, and kind of how does this result in corporate breaches? And it's really fascinating. One of the big pieces I'll probably hit on a lot as I tell Nick to go to the next slide, please, is to talk about the economic aspect of it, because the economic aspect of it is really critical. So the entire system, maybe 15 years ago, you had a single threat actor who was carrying out kind of most phases of an attack. But what's happened is the cybercrime ecosystem has gotten very commoditized. And so you have everything from InfoStealer malware vendors who are actually selling the a license, for lack of a better term, to the malware, all the way down to these kind of like low-level consumers who are taking the InfoStealer logs and using them to get access to bank accounts, to cryptocurrency accounts, to Netflix accounts, and then in some cases for corporate access. So fundamentally, let's start with what is an info stealer. It's a type of malware that infects a computer. It steals all of the credentials and session cookies saved in the browser. It also steals lightweight files on the computer. It'll steal the browser's history. It'll steal kind of like basic information about the host, and that becomes important later on in a way that Nick's going to show you. And then what threat actors do with these is they use them to obviously log in directly to accounts. So, if the username and password works, it works. And then they also use it to bypass two-factor authentication through session hijacking accounts, which Nick will also be diving deeply into. But you can see this is kind of how an attack happens. A user downloads an info stealer. It executes on the victim's computer. The info stealer grabs all of their credentials, their VPN data, crypto addresses. It even grabs Discord tokens. That data gets exfiltrated to C2 infrastructure. Often the malware just self-terminates. Like one of the things here is they want to avoid detection. And so the malware doesn't like persistently grab this information. It's usually kind of a one-time snapshot in most cases. Then threat actors package all of these individual logs together and then distribute them across thousands of Telegram channels. Telegram is the big reason why is Telegram allows like free file sharing. And so you can make kind of an anonymous in quotation marks account and start sharing files very easily. If you go to the next slide for me. All right. So what does a Steeler log look like? I always find like that, I can explain it to you all day, but it's much easier to see it. I will say all of this data is fake. So this is a real log, but we swapped out the real data for the fake data, so we're not doxing anybody here. So one log is one victim's computer. You can see there's autofill data. They have a cookies tab. There's Discord, important autofills, installed browsers. So it'll pull from basically any browser. I don't think I've ever seen a browser that's immune There's a passwords.txt file, which has all of the credentials from the device, process lists, so what processes are running, and then user information.txt. The middle one here is the passwords. Notice there is a advertisement for the malware as a service vendor in the log. Like this is super common. Threat actors are always looking for ways to advertise. In this case, they're advertising literally directly inside the log. And so this appears in every log that was infected by Redline during this period. You can see there's the URL. So what do they have the access to? The username, Jeremy Reynolds, and the password, Captain Cook 12, along with the application. So in this case, it was Microsoft Edge, but there's several different browsers contained in the passwords file. And then finally, on the right-hand side, you can see the actual session cookie data. So this is what threat actors use for session replay attacks. And it also serves as kind of a browser history as well. So there is a browser history in the logs, but threat actors can also use the session cookies to find relevant logins. If you go to the
Yeah,
next
so
slide from, go
to
ahead,
to
Nick.
summarize, I just want to summarize real quick. When you
Please.
buy a Stealer log, this is what you're buying. This is the output of a bunch of commands run on one machine. So like a command to grab the saved cookies, to grab the saved creds, and like a process list is like these are accumulations of the output of classic recon commands. Like who am I, system info, ARP, any like net command are all just put into these text files, and then you buy like one zip, and that zip is everything stolen off of one machine. So all of these represent information stolen from one device. And we actually have a cool graphic for that later, but you usually buy like hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of these zips at a time, but each zip is just one computer's, footprint, whatever was on the host at the time of infection.
I'm going to answer two questions right now that we have in the Q&A. Do the logs look like this when you get them, or do you process them to get them to look like this? No, this is exactly like these are raw logs. Basically, we filtered out the information, but this is exactly what they would look like for a threat actor who gets them on Telegram. The passwords are not encrypted. If you use a password vault browser, like 1Password, they would be encrypted. But if you're just saving stuff in like Chrome or Edge or Firefox or whatever the case is, they're by default not encrypted. We actually have seen some info stealers too that will grab the I'm gonna probably misstate this, and Nick save me if I do, but like the code for two-factor authentication for some of the password managers in the
Yes,
browser.
yes. And we cover that. There's two ways to get your password manager popped by an info stealer. One is saving the master password to your password vault in your browser's password manager. And then the like if you use a KeyPass, like the KDBX file being stolen from your device, and then your master password to KDBX being in your browser's password manager is the worst case scenario. Because like your KDBX can't, you need the master password to get into it. It's safe otherwise. But if you save the master password in Chrome because you have like a widget that connects the two, boom, huge problem right there. And then the other one Eric talked about is like if you use TOTP, time-based, MFA basically, and you do that through a browser extension, then I'm trying not to laugh at the chat. I lost though. I will laugh at the chat, unfortunately. Um, if you use time-based OTP and that's done through a browser extension and the config for that browser extension gets stolen, then you've also got a major problem because like they can just take the secret, plug it into a browser TOTP generator and log in and use your multi-factor. So like even MFA is not safe if you live in the browser. If your MFA and your password vault and your everything is in the browser, then an info stealer will do some serious harm.
Nick, can you reshare? We're 15, we're 12 minutes in, and we've gone through one slide, so we can speed through this slide. I think everybody probably gets the idea here. So this is from the Verizon DVR. They actually used some of Flare's data for this, but like the real long and short of it is threat actors are using credentials mostly derived from info stealers and session cookies to gain direct access to accounts. You can think of cyber criminals as they're kind of business people, right? They're always going to do whatever makes them the most money in the shortest amount of time. And info stealers provide a really, really easy vector for them to gain access to corporate accounts or to consumer accounts that they can then leverage for money. That's the key takeaway there. Next slide, please, Nick. Info stealers by the numbers. The number of info stealers, I think, is one of the really crazy things. So we see about 76.5 million in the ecosystem. We see about 5 million new a month. And somewhere between 20 and 40% of them have some type of corporate access in them. So huge amounts have like Active Directory. I think it's in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But others you'll often see Okta, Ping Identity, um, all sorts of different corporate applications. The level of kind of compromise here is absolutely insane. And the fact that this is all just kind of floating around on Telegram is even more insane.
Yeah,
Next
and
slide, please.
a lot of devices are shared by multiple people. So you've got some serious, well into the hundreds of millions of people impacted by, 70 some odd million logs being out there.
All right. So how does this ecosystem work? I'm going to try to speed through this a little bit. So here we have malware as a service vendors selling Infostealer malware licenses. So you have Redline seller here, and then there's another one called Forsey. I will say Forsey is not very common. We just used it as an example. You can see there's a lot of marketing that goes into this. They're kind of trying to give you the rundown of all of the features and why you should pick their Infostealer. Licenses typically go for $100 to $200 a month, so it's pretty simple. They pay in crypto. Some of them do offer lifetime licenses, but if you look at the backend code, which we have, a lot of times the lifetime license expires in like 1 year or 18 months, which I find very funny. So the moral of the story here is cyber criminals love to scam each other. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a good example of the market share of different InfoStealer malware vendors. In any kind of commodity ecosystem business, you're always going to have competition. The stealer vendors compete very heavily with each other. You'll see there's really sharp drops occasionally. This is often from where a vendor got taken down by law enforcement or there was a significant disruption action. And then you see really quickly another kind of vendor rises to prominence here. So it is a continuously evolving ecosystem where all of these different malware as a service vendors are all competing with each other. If you go to the next slide for me, Nick. So, how do people get infected with info stealers? This is probably like the one of the most important questions. A huge amount of it is cracked software. I'm going to start there, even though it's not my first bullet point. We see people downloading all sorts of stuff. They try to download Robux. They try to download, Adobe Photoshop free. They try all different sorts of different things, and the package actually contains InfoStealer malware, which executes on their computer when they buy it. We'll go in a little bit into how threat actors actually distribute this. Windows 11 upgrades, you'll often see kind of malicious Google and Facebook ads advertising free Windows 11 upgrade or something of the sort. That's also another major vector. Mobile app clones. And then sometimes you see more sophisticated campaigns. We'll be showing an example of kind of a more specific and nuanced campaign that we saw cause hundreds of thousands of infections here very shortly. Next slide, please, Nick. And sorry, I'm speeding through these. We have a lot of slides and a lot of content. So I'm trying to make sure we get through as much of it as possible. And also Nick's stuff is more interesting than mine. So here we have a common attack pathway. Let's say a threat actor has bought themselves a Redline malware license. How do they actually distribute it? Like, what is their exact workflow? Well, first they buy it. That comes with command and control infrastructure. They tend to then create a video. It'll be something like Adobe Photoshop free or, how to get XYZ software, how to get free Robux. It could be a whole bunch of things. Then they take over a YouTube account. This could be a literally account takeover, like they use an info stealer to take over an account, or it could be that they buy an account that already has subscribers. There's multiple different pathways here. And then they basically create a video about their kind of infection vector. So maybe it's a video on how to get free Robux. That's a really common one. They then upload their video, and then in the description of the video, they will include a link. Often it goes to Mega NZ or to Telegraph, telegraph.ph. It's basically like a free blog paste type site, which will then include the link to Mega NZ. You'll often see them tell you, if this triggers your antivirus, don't worry about it. That's really common. Just make sure you disable your antivirus, and then it'll work. Then they advertise their video on Google, TikTok, Facebook ads, anywhere they can get, often using accounts that have been taken over. And then they kind of collect, thousands to hundreds of thousands of stealer logs from the resulting infections based on how successful their campaign has been. So we actually found a guide from the cybercrime ecosystem on how to do this. This is where I kind of built that beautiful, you can tell I'm really good at marketing. So I'm really good at like very nice designs here. I'm joking, I'm terrible. But you can tell that we actually found a cybercrime guide here on how threat actors carry out InfoStealer infections. It was written in both Russian and English. I think he used Google Translate to translate it from Russian to English. But you can see, what is a title? In fact, it's simple. This is an enticing name for the advertisement, which will lure the furry ones. Now, this is like a huge mystery to me because I have no idea what in Russian is translating to furry ones. Like, I cannot figure it out. Like, the furry ones are the victims in this case. But it's very interesting, and they're referred to the furry ones throughout the guide. Next one, please. So, How to lure the furry ones. Here's an example of it, the type of advertisement. Elon Musk shocked the people. Elon Musk said how to get 0.2 Bitcoins. This is really common. Bitcoin scams. Like, Elon Musk has given out free Bitcoins. Just download this link here. Next slide, please, Nick. Don't let the furry ones evaporate your money. So it's really interesting. Like they actually go into pretty great detail on how to set up Google Ads, assuming that you've taken over an account or using a fake credit card or somebody's real credit card that you've stolen. They actually go into like great detail. Like don't let all of your stolen money evaporate through Google Ads. Like here is how you set up your Google Ads account to maximize the infections in a way that does not trigger Google Ads anti-fraud measures and also that will not burn all of your money. I do run Google Ads at Flare, so I can tell you it is very expensive. So, maybe there's some pointers from the guide we could use for legitimate advertising. Next slide, please, Nick. So this is an actual screenshot from a victim. And this is one of the most interesting campaigns I've personally seen. So this was a very specific campaign. They basically were imitating the AI image generation software Midjourney. They had all of these domains set up, AI, hyphen Midjourney, AI dot Midjourney. They set up like 15 or 20 different domains. They actually invested pretty heavily in like making nice graphics and making it look very realistic. And then notice the highlighted in red. It is possible the computer security system may falsely trigger, which is a common problem for all software that's in beta testing. So they kind of preemptively tell you this may trigger the computer security, and then there's a download for Windows. Now, the whole problem here is you don't download Midjourney, or at least you didn't used to. When I used Midjourney like 2 years ago, it was a Discord. Everything is done through Discord. So downloading Midjourney is automatically suspicious, but they were running a lot of Google ads and Facebook ads and all types of ads, like pointing people to these landing pages. And I think probably this one caused hundreds of thousands to millions of infections. Um, Next slide for me, Nick. Roblox. This is another victim screenshot. Roblox is insanely common. I think like 1/3 of all of the Stealer logs you look at are somebody who has downloaded something free Robux, whatever the case is, and it is they're often playing Roblox after the infection, which is always interesting. We've even seen like kind of corporate like enterprise devices where somebody gave their enterprise computer to their kid and their kid downloaded free Robux, and then you have like a major data breach. So that's a really unfortunate way to cause a data breach. Don't do that. Next
Yeah,
slide,
we
please,
don't know
Nick.
exactly we don't always know which type of Steeler caused an infection, but I'm confident that at least one of the largest breaches of the last 2 years was a Roblox initiated infection. Not the Roblox like game itself, like some free, Roblox mod or free Robux tool, from like a child playing it on their guardian's work computer. This is a classic.
All right. Is this one yours or mine, Nick? I can't
I can do
remember.
it. I can do it if you
Okay,
want.
go for it.
So this is a little guide kind of summarizing everything we just talked about. How are info stealers actually used in the wild? So first, someone creates a Google ad for their malicious website. That makes, when you search Midjourney, at least while this one was up, and we've seen this many times with like, install Java, install brew.sh, stuff like that. When you search Midjourney at this moment, Midjourney is the top result because of the Google ads setup that this particular cybercrime crew had. So someone goes and searches Midjourney because of the Google ad. That result is placed on the top, and someone clicks it. When that person clicks it, downloads the executable, the PE, and actually runs it, then their device is infected. Everything's stolen, like we talked about. The cookies, the passwords, the browser history, everything is taken and sent to C2. The reason the Telegram logo is here is because a surprising amount of Stealer C2 and like phishing kit credential posting happens over the Telegram API. Telegram isn't just where people talk about stuff. It's also like a tool. It can be used as a part of C2 or at least for data exfil. So they they infect the victim, steal all of the things using the stealer. The stealer puts everything in a zip and using the, file upload API from Telegram, uploads that zip into a Telegram channel, and a bunch of other people are already in that Telegram channel collecting every infected machine as it comes through. This is called a live infection channel. Some people add them all up and release them at the end of the week. Some people post them to a live channel. But let's say, the cyber criminals are accumulating these in their C2 in a Telegram channel. Other people are in it and start taking the logs and redistributing them. This is also very common. One Stealer log will often, I don't have a solid number on it, but will often show up multiple times across cybercrime Telegram. So someone will infect a device, share that zip, and that zip will show up in a bunch of places, which means people are lifting it and rebranding it as their own infection to sell on their own. They're giving it away for free to promote their own cybercrime thing, whatever it might be. But this infection, one channel gets the original infection, and then a bunch of other cyber criminals who are in that channel start sharing the log out. And then at the end of the chain is the actual cyber criminals. And this like runs the gamut of what types of cybercrime happen. There are people doing harvesting credentials for your favorite streaming service to just quickly resell or post for free. And on the way, you get a bunch of ads and it's part of an ad fraud scheme. Or there's people breaking into, major e-commerce platforms to buy goods with stolen credit cards that they also get from the Stealer logs because there's credit card information usually in the autofills. And then there's initial access brokers who sell to ransomware groups or sell on cybercrime forums, who are looking for corporate SaaS apps to access to actually extort victims, or they're looking for remote access tools where the login to the remote access tool or some kind of like VPS link that they can do over the browser is present. And then there's nation states in here as well, looking for things that access that has been leaked from a government employee or government system that has been infected. So everyone who does cyber crime or like is a classic threat actor can learn something from Stealer logs. Now, this is the most important phase, the redistribution phase. This is where the logs actually get sent out to all of the other people in the world of cybercrime. This usually happens over Telegram. So let's say you're a cyber criminal and you're in a Telegram channel called Crazy Cloud. They always have some name often that has cloud in it. You're in the Crazy Cloud 2025 channel, and this is where every week cyber criminal posts, here's this week's zip of infected systems. And it's 10,000 systems that were infected in the last week. Maybe 9,000 of them are their actual infections. The 1,000 is this, them finding other people's logs and saying, ooh, I got to hit my 10,000 number because I promised my other cyber criminals I would. So I'm going to take other people's logs and change change some things around to make it look like mine. Now, from this big zip they post, you download it as the cyber criminal and unzip it. And in this big Crazy Cloud daily archive is all of the infected machines from that day, week, month, whatever it is. And then you unzip the individual machine in this nested zip, and you get the Stealer log. So it will have the system info from that host, the passwords from that host. And sometimes these are named like the zips are all the host name of each machine or the IP of each machine, or some other unique naming convention to identify the victims. A screenshot of the host at the time of infection, all of the cookies from all the different browsers and their browser profiles, the files from the machine, like PDFs, spreadsheets, docs that were taken, whatever. And that's how this works. And to reinforce the scale, there are tens of millions of these individual machines, infection little zip archives with everything on the machine at the moment of infection, circulating in the world of cybercrime, which is like that accumulates to many billions. There's got to be a billions and billions meme available in some GIF maker, but billions and billions of credentials, billions of cookies floating around, just waiting kind of for the right cyber criminal to find them. And they often do. There are, I think in the Snowflake hacks where, Snowflake wasn't hacked, but last year, Connor Muka and Kyber Phantom, who are both now in prison, broke into a bunch of people's Snowflake tenants the way Snowflake wants them to. They stole credentials from Stealer logs and literally just logged into people's Snowflake tenants, downloaded all the data, and then said, pay me or I release it. No fancy post-exploitation, no interesting recon, no profiling, no whatever. This kind of method has been used to do some serious damage. And some of those logs were years old. Some of the logins they used were super, super old. They weren't like an infection from last week. They were just seeing what worked in all of the old Steeler logs they could get their hands on. It's really crazy. No, we're not in the wrong business, Roswell. They went to prison. But a lot of people who do this don't go to prison, but a lot do. But good point. Don't do crime. Do not do crimes, no matter how easy they sound. Um, so this is also how they get passed around.
Nick, you're showing Discord, just so you know.
Oh no, that was
Oh,
the presenter
oh, I
thing.
see.
Yes, which was relevant. So the ULP, there's another ecosystem of like these creds where people aren't always just trading in the actual zip of the host. Some folks will take, like cyber criminals, will take 10,000 Stealer logs or more, combine them into a big like CSV. So they'll say, okay, I don't really care about the file, the browser history, the autofills, whatever. I just want logins. So they will go, write a very simple Bash or Python script to pull all of the logins out of tens of thousands of logs and upload that as a CSV. So it's the logins from many infected computers combined into one, and that they call a ULP. It's not a classic like data breach dump, like the MyFitnessPal breach or something like that, where it's the user database of that thing, that service. This is from people's password managers, from their browser password managers. So it actually has the URL that you can use that will get you into the service you're after. So then you can control F if you're a cyber criminal through one of these files and type in, portal.azure or AWS console or whatever, corporate system you're trying to access and see what logins work for that because this person actually had an account. You're not just spraying passwords from the Adobe breach against a portal. You actually know this person does have an account, and at one point this was their password. So this is a big part of cyber criminal operations. And then down the line further, some people actually try to log in, and if they get in, they then sell that. And they say, "Hey, I have a valid account that can get me into this." It's you're gonna love it. It gets you into all of these other things. It gets me into this company that has this, and then they'll often poke around and see what else they can access. This person has root shell, Telegram bot, S3, SFTP, SMTP, a bunch of things for a crypto casino that they broke into. So Stealer logs are a big part of this ecosystem of selling access. And this is one of the Eric, can you do this one? You know
Yeah.
this one, I do.
Yeah, so this is actually this is an Infostealer user. So this is somebody who's using Stealer logs who got infected themselves. We think this person was doing romance scams based on like the context in the Stealer log. So he was basically hacking Facebook accounts and then running romance scams off of the hacked Facebook accounts, which is like a really interesting use case. So yeah, we found a whole bunch of threat actors who basically downloaded a checker, and Nick is going to get into what a checker is in a little bit, called BL Tools. And the threat actor who was distributing the cracked checker had actually infected the checker with an Infostealer. So a bunch of people leveraging Infostealer logs for crimes got infected with this checker, which is very entertaining. But you can see here, he was basically just doing like taking over Facebook accounts en masse. Like that was his workflow. Looking through kind of dozens to hundreds of these logs, it's really interesting. Like threat actors tend to have one workflow, right? They're not taking one log and trying to get access to everything in it. Instead, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to get really good at taking over Netflix accounts, and I'll come up with a way to monetize that. And then they look through thousands of logs and just like try to find the Netflix accounts in them. And we'll get into how they do that here shortly. But that's kind of the main takeaway is like there's like a threat actor who's using Infostealer logs has one workflow, and they just execute that workflow over and over again to try to maximize their profits. It's kind of like economies of scale. It's like a supply chain. Next slide, please, Nick. This one is like really crazy. So this was a dude who was taking over bank accounts. It's really interesting. I'm not exactly sure how he was doing it because most bank accounts have really short session cookie TTLs. My suspicion is he may have either been using a live like a live Telegram channel where somebody just logged into their bank account and he was able to like jump in and grab the cookies and replay the session, or he was like doing some kind of 2FA phishing, spear phishing for an account, etc., to get the 2FA code that he had the direct credentials for. But it's like really crazy. You can see exactly what he did in his browser history. So the right-hand side is his browser history. You can see secure Bank of America sign-in, Bank of America My Accounts, Bank of America account transfer. He adds his own account, does an overview, makes the transfer, signs off. So it's like a really SIM swapping I saw in Discord, SIM swapping could have been it, but I would suspect more likely that he just phished the victim for his 2FA code. I will say, like, one of the underappreciated elements of a Stealer log is you get all of the details about somebody's life. In a lot of cases, you get their autofill data, which is going to have like their home address, their mother's maiden name, answers to their secret questions. And so it makes like phishing for 2FA codes much easier in a lot of ways because if you call the victim and say like, hey, I'm from Bank of America, this is your mother's maiden name, this is the home address you live at, this is your credit card number, like it becomes very believable. So there is this kind of element where they can use the other information in the Stealer log to make the attack more effective by impersonating the victim. So if you want to go to the next slide, Nick. Intro to cookies. I'm handing it back off to Nick here.
Yes, cookie time. I also saw CyberGhost say, talk about good intel. The scammer's getting an info stealer. Yes, there you would be surprised at how many cyber criminals infect themselves with info stealers and leak all their stuff. And sometimes it's on a VM and like there's not much there. Sometimes it's a lot. You can learn the true like behind the scenes of a cybercrime operation through the activity on a cyber criminal's device because you get the same stuff: the browser history, the autofills, the browser password manager, the files. It's wild. And people release tools. We'll cover one that other cyber criminals can use to like easily process Stealer logs, and they've laced those tools with Stealers. So there was like a campaign targeting, yes, oh my God, and that Huntress blog was so good, where a cyber criminal installed Huntress and then like I guess to test evasion on something and then accidentally put it on the actual machine they were using and leaked a bunch of interesting information about their cybercrime operation. Please read that blog by Huntress. You must. It's very good reading. But yeah, they infect themselves all the time. It's crazy stuff. So before I get into why stealing cookies is interesting, I want to talk about what is a cookie. They are, this is the Google. If you Google what is a cookie, this is what comes up. This is what came up for me at least. An HTTP cookie, also called a web cookie, internet cookie, browser cookie, or simply cookie, is a block of data created by a web server while a user is browsing a website and placed on their computer. So basically, a cookie is a piece of data that the web server stores locally on your device. And cookies are can be a number of things, but the like use case for cookies is say you're shopping in a like a Shopify store, and you're not logged in to Shopify, and you close the store by accident. Your computer crashes, or you Alt F4 or whatever. You reopen the store, and your cart is saved. You added and customized a bunch of things already, and those items are still in your cart. That's because while you were adding things to your cart, there was a cookie being written to your device that contained the settings of your cart. So when you leave the website and come back, it knows to populate your cart with these things. Or you close, Facebook or YouTube or what Temu or whatever you're using on your computer to do whatever activities you enjoy. And you stop doing that for like months. You don't open Facebook for months or YouTube, and then you open it 2 months later, and boom, you're still logged in. You don't have to re-authenticate. That is also because of cookies. The When you logged in, a cookie was placed on your device saying, "Hey, this is Steve, and Steve's logged in," and it'll have an expiration date and say Steve's logged in for 6 months. After 6 months, make him re-authenticate. But until then, every time he opens the browser, Steve's good to go. That is the benefit of cookies. And cookies are literally just files. They're files on your computer, or they're tiny SQLite databases on your computer. So this is like for Opera. It's literally saved as a file called cookies. And then this is Firefox, and it's a file called cookies.sqlite. On whether you're on pretty much any flavor of OS, there is literally a file in your file system for each browser called cookies. Cookies.something, .text, .sqlite, .whatever, and it's very easy to access. Now, what do they look like? Well, they look delicious. Just kidding. Get your minds out of the gutter. These are not what cookies look like. Though I will say this is probably the most delicious cookie I've ever seen. Like this looks like it would tear apart in the most beautifully gooey way. Um, And that one really gets my attention. Cookies are good, but these are not the cookies in question. Cookies actually look like this. So we were talking about the data, the actual raw data that gets stored on a device. This is it. It's like it's the website that placed the cookie and a couple interesting factoids about it, which we'll cover what these are. And then over here is the name of the cookie and the value. So the actual setting. So these all look complicated, but let's say one of these is well, actually, I have a cool example where that'll cover that in a second. But these are what the actual fields here represent. So you see like true, slash, false, a big number here, and then a name, and then a big string. Um, Over here, this format that we're looking at is called Netscape format. It's what all Steelers export in. I know you may have heard of Netscape. This has nothing to do with the Netscape browser. This is just the file format that they export in, which I guess Netscape used at some point. I have a mug with the Netscape logo on it somewhere that I'm really proud of. But those fields mean the first one is domain. The second is, does this include subdomains or not? So you see true, because there's nothing in front of the dot. This one is false because there is a subdomain present. The path to the cookie, this is almost always empty. Sometimes there's a unique path here. Whether they are HTTPS only or they can be used without, sending and receiving over HTTP without the important parts. The expiration date. So this is like the expiration time. I think this is Unix time code. The amount of time since it's going to take for the cookie to expire and require renewal. And then the name of the cookie and the actual value. So this can be as simple as the cookie being, let's go to the fun animation. I don't have time for all that fun stuff. When you visit a website and you're on the login page, it could save a few things, and the value doesn't have to be some big complicated string. It can literally be a single character. So in this example here, I have my cookies.txt file, and I'm about to log into website.com and using my multi-factor. And just by visiting website.com, boom, 2 cookies are on my machine. And the cookie, this one is called dark mode. I've got all my values here that I had to truncate. And then 0, which let's say the web server recognizes this as dark mode off. And then my visitor ID for whatever, the website could be tracking the number of visitor I am. I'm the 1,284th person to visit this website. My next step is I log in. And after I've successfully logged in, my cookies.txt file gets a new cookie. And that cookie is website.com adding the session token. And the session token identifies me as having logged in to this service. So a session token is just a token is just a type of cookie. It's like there are many types of cookies in the world. This dark mode setting is a type of cookie. This visitor ID is a type of cookie. A session token is a type of cookie. A session token, Steam also has a session token, but it stores it in some other place. Discord has a session token, it stores it in some other place. A session token doesn't have to be in the browser, but when it is a browser-based session token, then it can be stolen relatively easily by an info stealer. And then, I come back 2 weeks later and nothing has changed in my cookie file, but since my session token is still there and not expired, the website says, hey, welcome back. So back to that graphic here. A cookie is a storage mechanism in the browser. A session token is a unique identifier for a session. Whether it's in a browser or not, it's an identification for the session. And then the meaning of session here is a state. It's like if your user is logged in and what's maintaining that the relationship between the server and the client. So a session token isn't always a cookie.
I have to encourage you to hurry a little bit because you got 18 minutes and like 30 slides left.
Oh, I can do it. I can do it, my friends. Okay, so what is session hijacking? We are now at this last phase here. So I'm in the welcome back Steve phase. I've been logged into this service for 2 weeks and it doesn't expire for another 2 weeks. But unfortunately, in that time, I wanted some free Photoshop. Someone at work, Eric, asked me to build something for marketing, and I had to download Photoshop to do it because I can't do it in GIMP. And boom, I accidentally infected myself with an info stealer. This steals the cookie.txt file and uploads it to the bad guy Telegram. Boom, we're back at that other phase. The cookies file is now sent out to a bunch of other cyber criminals, and I am dramatically oversimplifying in some ways. Unfortunately, in some ways, it actually is this easy. The bad guy has now downloaded my cookies.txt file. They can literally drag and drop this into the location of their cookies file in their browser, put mine there instead, and become me. Without multi-factor that I had to do before, without if the biometric authentication I required before, none of that matters because I already passed those checks to get this session ID. So if they have my session ID, boom, that's it. They take over the session right away. And in this case, they even changed dark mode to 1 and turned dark mode on, but still got to take over my session, which is tragic. So not all cookies are important. There are many types of cookies, as I've discussed, right? Stealing this cookie, which is a real cookie. I took these from Stealer Logs and edited them, so you can't actually steal them. This cookie is saving my cookie settings. This is like the cookie consent script box. So this is, I went on a website and I clicked, I do not consent to you collecting my cookies. And then when I did that, it created a cookie that said, hey, this user does not consent to you saving any of these things. It stored that as a cookie in the browser. If you stole this cookie from my device, there's not much there. What are you going to do with this? Now you know what settings I like when I'm on that website. Now, if you steal this cookie for login.microsoftonline.com, my ESTS off persist token, this would be very bad. This can be replayed. This can be stolen to access, basically take over an account in Entra. I'm sure any identity IAM engineers in here will recognize this cookie and feel fear. But there are many of these in Stealer Logs. If we look this up, there's a lot. So bad guys like cookies because cookies are simple. Now, creds are simple too. When you steal creds from a device and you want to try and log into someone's Dropbox account, you plug in the username and password. But we are in a very SaaSified world now where 4 years ago, a lot of people may not have had MFA turned on. Now, a lot of people do. So you're gonna hit a block there when you try and log in. If you use cookies, you can, if the service permits, which many do, walk right past multi-factor authentication. You don't have to worry about the prompt. You don't have to worry about entering credentials at all. You can just copy and paste the cookie and take over the session with obviously a lot of nuance to that statement, which I'll get into. And Stealer Logs are built to make this easy to do, the way the logs are shared. So these are some common infection vectors, which we've already talked about. You know, you're getting an ad or you're getting a link in a YouTube video that you click on. And the actual act of stealing cookies looks like this. Now, okay, pop quiz. Can anyone identify? And if you've already seen this from a different cookies training I did, don't say it. Can you identify which browser this stealer is for? Or, I'm sorry, which OS this stealer is for? This Roblox utils thing. Anyone? Almost Linux. Someone could probably argue with me about that. Yes, Android. Bingo. This is an Android Infostealer. This is not just a desktop OS supported thing. There are stealers for every family, but Android was the right answer. So nice work, Echo 6. You were first to it. I wish I had a prize to give you. We'll arrange something. But yes, and then this next one. Can anyone figure out what this next one is on this slide? This is a different browser. No longer looking at what OS, but what browser is this for? Firefox. Bingo. Immediate. Nice job. This is the SQLite storage retrieval mechanism, but it's like shockingly simple. It's literally just retrieving and doing super simple data processing on the cookie files themselves, which are either text files or tiny databases. Now, if you have MFA enabled and you're using TOTP, then that is not a problem for the stealer because it will grab all of your browser extensions. Now, most of these browser extensions, this is also code from Luma, an old Luma like reverse that someone posted, some of the source code. This is the part of the code that's asking the stealer to go grab the config of all of these browser extensions. These unique codes here, if you plug them in to Google's web store, will show you what they're for. Most of these are crypto. Yeah, yeah, good call, Drev. These are mostly crypto wallets. But one of these and a few others, let's take this one, are actually to the TOTP apps. So if I go to Chrome Web Store /detail, you can skip authenticator. That's the name here. You don't have to do that. You can just do detail / and then the ID here. But if I plug that ID into this link, it loads up the authenticator app. So we can figure out using the Web Store API all of the different browser extensions that the stealer is stealing from using these IDs. And we actually went back and a member of our research team, Olivier, went and tested this in a very cool lab that he created for this, where he recreated and then stole the config for a TOTP tool. Went into just looked up TOTP generator online, took the config from his stealer that he infected himself with, super mega secret, plugged that in, recreated the other parts of the config here, and then was able to generate the same exact code that his original device that was infected, the original device's authenticator also generated the same code at the same time. So this is the limitation of time-based MFA and also a reason you should not use multi-factor browser extensions because the info stealers love stealing things from not only the browsers, but also the browser extensions. And Chrome thought about this and added in application-bound encryption. And basically, bad guys said, what if we didn't do that and just stole the cookies anyway? And they did. They found a way around it through an elevated process, and now stealers still steal from Chrome this way. Session replay attacks are done. I mentioned before that stealers make this really easy to use. This is why session replay attacks are so easy. This Netscape cookie format is built to work with what's called an anti-detect browser. Now, these are tools that marketing teams use sometimes to do legitimate things. These are also tools that are very popular in the world of cybercrime, and they let you create your own browser fingerprints. It's like a VM just for a browser. And this is a very popular one, Octo Browser. So you can come into Octo Browser, click the Create Profile button, and then customize your own browser window so that you can make it look like you're coming from an Android device in Poland with this hardware profile and that's already visited these sites. So it's like a tool to manage maybe a social media marketer to manage 15 different Facebook accounts for all their clients. You can go in here and specify the screen resolution of the device you're connecting from, the font packs installed, the languages, the time zone, the hardware settings, which you can choose the OS and the number of CPU cores, the RAM size, all that stuff so that your browser fingerprint is the same every time that you connect through this Octo browser, no matter where you're coming from. And what I'm about to show you is the same view, but from a cybercriminal. So these are screenshots from a video we found in the world of cybercrime. So this is a cybercriminal who created this browser profile. And then in this video, they're instructing how other cybercriminals can take over sessions. And what they do first is they go to that file that we already saw in the stealer that has the system info command output, and they grabbed a couple pieces of information. So they said, okay, how many cores are on this machine and the CPU? Boom, 4 cores. Okay, let's go edit that setting to say 4 cores. And what's the graphics card? It's GTX 1050. Okay, let's edit that to say GTX 1050. These are all part of the hardware, the footprint your device is making when it connects. So it's really, really important for them to do. And then they say, okay, what location is this device coming from? Because I'm not going to be able to get the same IP, but I'll get close enough so that whatever the website is, the session I'm taking over, it'll think I moved to a coffee shop down the street and I didn't move from, Delaware to Italy or something. So they look up Concord in their proxy tool because they're going to proxy the connections through this. And boom, they find Concord, North Carolina. Now, there's obviously some kind of language barrier with this cybercriminal because they did indeed select to connect from Concord, North Carolina, and not Concord, New Hampshire, which is where the device is from, which will become tragic in a minute. So they successfully connect to their Concord location, which matches the search that they did. They drag and drop the cookie file into the cookie section of this browser's profile. Boom, all they had to do is drag and drop it, and it imported all the cookies. Now they click launch on the session, and mind you, they haven't done anything yet. They literally just launched a browser. They haven't logged into anything. They just imported cookies and customized the browser to look like this infected device uh, that they got. Now they go to youtube.com and hit enter. And because they already entered in the cookies, because they recreated the hardware profile, because they got all the fingerprint things right, they opened YouTube and were already logged in as the user who was infected. So with a shockingly small amount of work, what they just did took like 15 seconds maybe. They've taken over this session. And the worst part about this is that it's from the wrong place. They were like states away in their connection, but it still let them. But you'll notice that's like kind of normal, right? You go on a flight, everything doesn't make you re-authenticate when you get to your hotel. You're usually still logged in. So they were in. They got in, even with the Concord thing. Cookie checkers, not everyone wants to do all this work to like, even though it's not that much work, to like manually import all the stuff and take over a session. Some people want to do this at massive scale. And they will use cookie checkers. This screenshot we got from a cyber criminal who infected himself by using a cookie checker because there was a
Yes,
campaign.
this is the cookie checker that was infected with the info stealers that like hundreds of criminals downloaded, which was insanely entertaining. Sorry, Nick, keep going.
No, you're good. So you look at the config here, and it's like Steam, check, Roblox, check, Humble Bundle, check, PSN, check. This lets them point a tool at a directory in their file system, and it assumes that Stealer logs are in there. And so then they can set up an automation to like from their Telegram channel, their cybercrime Telegram channels, take all the logs and put them in this folder, and then their cookie checker will look in that folder and test all of the cookies. And when it finds valid ones, it will let them know. And then they know they've taken over a session and can go do whatever cybercrime they're doing with that tool. You notice people who are using something like BL tools are doing very like taking over social media accounts or simple services kinds of cybercrime. These aren't exactly the guys targeting corporate SaaS tools, but it's a very popular corner of the cybercrime world. Now for the last section, the economy of cookies. Eric, do you want to take us through this or?
Yes, I have 4 minutes. So yes. Hold on, sorry, I'm pulling that up. So yeah, there's a lot of threat actors who talk about using cookies. It is a very well-known thing in the cybercrime ecosystem, much more so actually than in blue teams in my experience. So you'll see here, let's be clear, no 0-day. It's a clean session hijack. I have a rat on a senior exec's machine. He logs in with his MFA, and then I grab the authenticated session token from his browser. I use the live session, no MFA prompt, and then he's able to move laterally. So we found a lot of posts like this. If you want to go to the next slide, Nick. There's so many people on Telegram and on cybercrime forums talking about using cookies. I won't read them all out loud to you. I'll just give people a second to read this one, and we can go to the next one. Is it really that easy to get 2FA with a stolen session cookie? Yes, a stolen session cookie can easily bypass 2FA. Next slide, Nick. Bro, I have no idea. Does stolen session work? Yes, session theft is a way to bypass 2FA. It's really interesting, actually, how well known this is in the cybercrime ecosystem. And I think it's given rise to a kind of new type of attack that we've seen to some degree, which is where instead of going after, the Snowflake breaches were a great example of this, where threat actors basically targeted Snowflake customers by looking for Snowflake environments in Stealer logs of customer environments. So as far as we know, Snowflake itself was never breached, but they got a lot of bad press and there was a lot of kind of noise around it because threat actors were basically going and systemically compromising customer environments using stolen session cookies and credentials found in logs. Next slide, please, Nick. And where do the cookies come from? They're distributed on Telegram. So somebody asked me this earlier. I think I answered in the Q&A, but it's basically like a Costco free sample or a Trader Joe's free sample, depending on which grocery store you have and how good your taste is. I won't tell you which one's my favorite. But basically here you can see threat actors are kind of like distributing Stealer logs. These are public channels. They advertise a number of monthly new logs. And notice on the right, like the branding gets like really detailed. Like they're actually like investing in branding and marketing and clearly much better at graphic design than I am. It's like very bright, eye-catching. You can see, go ahead, Nick. I'm trying to rapid speed through here. So you can see they do samples, they do archives, and then there's these live channels that kind of directly feed Stealer logs into a live channel where threat actors can then use the session cookies, which are much, much more recent. And so there's a huge recency value to threat actors in Stealer logs. Like the more recent, the more likely the creds are to be valid, the more likely the session cookies are to be valid. And this is just some examples of people selling accounts. So there's a whole market for stolen accounts for all sorts, basically any kind of account you can imagine. And they all are through Stealer logs. Now, before we wrap up, I did ask Zach's permission. I will say Flare does have a free trial. You can see if we found any Stealer logs for your company. I'll link the free trial in the Discord. And we also have leaked credentials, and all of the screenshots you saw there were also from Flare. So we monitored, we have an 8-year copy of the dark web. It's a very cool platform. That's all the marketing I'll do. You can check out our free trial.
Cool. We are just in time.
Yes, just in time. We really appreciate
Nailed
it,
it.
guys. It was a great audience and very fun.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. It was fantastic. We appreciate you guys sharing your time and your knowledge with us. We're already having people asking if you come back to share more. So we'll definitely look at seeing what we can do to get you guys back. There's definitely a lot to cover there. So we'll
Oh,
see
we'd
what we
love
can
to.
do.
Bad guys talk about a lot of stuff and we read it. And we like to show it to other people.
It's awesome, dude. Appreciate it so much. So I'm going to go through, we have some questions here. Some you may have answered some of them. So if you did, let me know. But if you guys do have questions, you can throw them in the Discord channel, or you can throw them in Zoom, and we'll try to get to them as we can. But an early one from Tad: do any of these info stealers leave forensic traces, i.e., deleted files on local file systems, registry keys, values, prefetch?
Totally. Yes. These things will be all over your logs. They will have like the most suspicious process trees you've ever seen. They will be executing, like the command lines will look insane. You know what? I'll find a good blog. I'm sure there's some, I've seen so many good blogs like this, like reverse engineers who have all of the like parts of the file system where a trace is left. Each stealer's a little bit different, but they're all after the same thing. So yes, info stealers are loud. Omex said it right. Info stealers are very loud. This is not low and slow malware. This is like commodity cybercrime stuff.
Lion Share's asking if cookies can be replaced for a more secure internet.
I don't know. I'm of two. I hope so.
They would kill Nick's passion. Like, what would he
Yeah,
do with his life?
I don't know what I would do all day if we got rid of him. But the truth is, yes, like a passwordless world, a device bound, like there will be stumbling blocks, like Chrome saw with application bound encryption, where they said, okay, people are stealing cookies, it's too easy. Let's make it an elevated permission to access the cookies at all. Let's make it difficult to do. They did, and bad guys got around it within I don't know, it was like a week, a few weeks, maybe a few days. It was immediate. So I'm sure if we moved to more device bound auth, there would be stumbling blocks. Bad guys would steal the device bound auth anyway and find ways to recreate it, just like they do with anti-detect browsers. They'd make more tools like that. But it'd be a step in the right direction. Right now, it's just too easy. Like doing cybercrime, the stealer log logins, the session takeovers, it's too easy. And I hope we eventually develop technologies that are a little more resilient to this kind of thing, because it's just a bummer. Luckily, everyone in the chat, your jobs are probably safe as long as cybercrime is this easy, but I think we all hope for a safer world, definitely. And people are working on that. So like it's not there's definitely hope. People are working on really cool projects to replace our modern interpretation of auth with something better.
Thank you, sir. What are the best signals to detect when a stolen session is being used to access DevOps assets? IP anomalies, unusual repo clones, or token abuse?
Yeah. Everything you said are great things on the list. IP anomalies, absolutely. You want to be. A lot of people ignore SaaS platforms when they're collecting logs, and they go for they go for local logs, stuff on the DCs, and like an awesome sysmon deployment on every endpoint, which is stuff that I think is awesome. But a lot of the most important sessions that can get taken over are to SaaS apps that a lot of people don't monitor auth activity on, or user activity on. So doing the same kind of long tail activity analysis, like the classic UEBA kind of anomaly detection on what people are doing, activity-wise, time-wise, what's normal for them, what's normal for their group, what's normal for people in their role. And I mean like AD group is super good detection. But also, assuming they didn't put a lot of care into taking over the session, it should be pretty obvious. Something in the fingerprint of the connection will be different. Maybe it's the IP. Well, it'll almost always be the IP, but something in the hardware profile of the connection will also probably be different too.
Thank you. Bad Away is asking if there are any good book recommendations for TI or Underground.
Ooh, oh, that's such a good question. Eric, do you know any books? Any
Any
books
books?
about cybercrime? I
I
know there are some books, aren't there?
That's a great question. There are books about cybercrime. I think it's kind of one of the problems of the same way that university classes that teach tech topics, like digital, like taking a university class at digital marketing isn't usually very useful because it's kind of outdated by the time you graduate, assuming the professor is even teaching you the most current stuff. And it's kind of the same problem for books. Like if I started writing a book about cybercrime right now, like cybercrime ecosystem would be like totally different in a year by the time I published it. Um, so I don't have any great book recommendations. I think that there's a blog I would recommend, which is actually by one of our threat intel researchers named Oleg Lipko. See if I can pull it up for you really quickly. It's basically on Russian language cybercrime ecosystem. It's really good. It goes into like a really in-depth history. I'll see if I can pull it up and link it in the chat. It's basically like a little mini book.
Yeah, there's also a book. I hadn't read it myself, but there is a book that a journalist who I read a lot of his articles and I think they're very interesting. Came out called Control Alt Chaos. It's by Joe Tidy, who works at I believe the BBC. Yeah, BBC News. And it's supposed to be very good. An interesting look into the cybercrime ecosystem right now. I think we're at least 2 years away from a documentary about what's been going on in the com and Scattered Spider in the last couple years, because like under the hood of like 8 out of 10 major breaches in the last year was a group of teenagers who live in the US and the UK, just calling themselves different group names and like doing a lot of trolling in the process and making tens of millions of dollars, sometimes more. Some of them are in prison now. Many of them have avoided it, but like there's got to be some books about that soon. But definitely check out again. I'm not like I haven't actually read the book yet, but I absolutely will. Control Alt Chaos, and then Brian Krebs wrote a book too, which is I'm sure worth checking out. And yeah, Darknet Diaries. Oh, Darknet Diaries reads like a book if you listen to their podcast. It's a really
Yeah,
fun show.
Darknet Diaries is amazing. If I write a book, though, I'll come back on a book tour.
Oh, someone posted book recommendations. Thank you. Ex SolarWinds intern. Amazing, dude.
By the way, Darkwire by Joseph Cox. 404 Media is a great news source. I highly recommend them. We've worked with Joseph on a couple of things. He's a great guy, and I have a lot of great things to say about 404. It's kind of like small independent media focused on tech and cyber.
Yeah, they do some really cool reporting.
Love it. Thank you for the suggestion, Jill. Shark is asking, how can secure browsers such as Prisma Access Browser help to mitigate the download of these info stealers?
Well, like isolated browsers can I don't know. I think they're a good idea. Yeah, The Cuckoo's Egg is an amazing book, Luke. Thank you for saying that. They will reduce the likelihood, like InfoStealer malware is not hopping into containers or jumping out of VMs often. It is not built to attack an isolated browser. So, I mean, really, if you're like in Prisma and have any modern EDR, the likelihood of an InfoStealer succeeding is dramatically diminished. Most of the infections are BYOD devices that infect companies where someone logged into like a few things or just uses their device, and their personal device and work device to do the same stuff. So there's no security control that I would say is a that I would like poo-poo when talking about InfoStealer prevention. But a modern security stack should be like pretty resilient. It's all the devices that are out of your out of compliance or BYOD that are of chief concern here.
Here's another good question. Is there any good like Telegram channels or even like Discord channels or Reddit threads or subreddits, I mean, that you guys suggest for a blue team SOC analyst just to stay ahead of the curve, to stay on top of things?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, this one has a lot of very passionate people chatting about these kinds of things. Flare has one too. We talk, we talk less about the broader blue team world in ours. We talk more about cybercrime and CTI. We're more of a threat intelligence focused um, uh, crew, though. We welcome everything. So this chat, the Black Hills chat, the Flare Discord, are really good. Subreddits, I'm not sure. There's a lot of creators I recommend to watch to get educated on like the deeper things in CTI. Like John Hammond does a lot of really cool videos about info stealers, and like he's done a lot of cool stuff about Telegram as C2 that I would check out. Simply Cyber, you'll keep up with the news that way. Jerry was in here before. His show's amazing. He talks about, when there's developments in this world, when there's arrests, those are always on his show, and those are super important things to keep on top of. So there's a lot of cool creators out there that are covering this stuff that are I think important to keep up with. I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you. I was just grabbing links for all those. Yeah. All right, is any more question? Do we have any more questions? I'm not sure if I missed any. If you have a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat. One from Apex Warrior: could we use more site passkeys and use the passkey to encrypt the session cookie itself?
Yeah, why not? I don't know if that's going to get in the way of your browser retrieving it. But maybe you can write, maybe you could write some Python to do that. And it might work. But the browser recognizes the actual code of the browser to retrieve the cookies only recognizes like its own cookie file. So maybe I could maybe think of some ways to do that creatively. So it's a very good idea. That style of thinking is probably what's going on at Chrome right now, and Firefox. But I'm not sure. Good question. Let's test it out.
Anonymous attendee says Entra ID usually shows me a risky user due to an anomalous token. What can I do to stop this from happening or help the user?
There's a few ways. Well, one, I'd be interested in the user's device. Like, I look at the anomaly. What is it? Is it the impossible travel? Is it something more interesting, or is it something that's a part of like the secret sauce that they're not telling you? But the two ways to get ahead of this problem are well, one of them is obviously Flare, right? This is like our bread and butter. I'm not gonna give you like a big sales pitch here, but like finding the leaked sessions in the first place and preventing them from even being used at all. Most detection happens after the session's been taken over. So if you use Flare, we can, get in front of the problem, but also like conditional access policies on any odd activity that's been flagged is really important. And then helping the user is, I think making sure that device is okay, a shoulder surf of the actual, like if you've got the ability to do anything remotely, if your EDR will let you do that, I would be investigating the device they logged in from as hopefully you have the logs from it, and I would investigate it as an infection. Like I would assume it's an infected device and try and figure out how. And if the like session attempt is anomalous, then it's coming from the wild, then it might be a leaked session, and you're gonna want to do a full revoke all sessions in Entra, and disable the account while you figure it out, and then force a credential reset, and force all those sessions to be reinitiated, and then keep an eye on them, because if it happens again, then it is coming from someone who's got something persistent. If it doesn't happen again, it may have been a session that was stolen and used once. Very long-winded answer with a million steps, but there's a lot of investigation I would do if Entra's telling that a session looks risky.
Thank you, sir. Greg's asking what overlap or not between have I been pwned reports and what Flare is offering.
We're very different. Eric, do you want to answer that question? I don't know.
I would love to answer that
Yeah.
question. Oh my God, we saw 25 things in the Q&A too. So Flare, you can think about like we're really built for enterprise. We actually are coming out with our own kind of like personal version of Flare, kind of similar to Have I Been Pwned, a little bit more data in some cases. But for most cases, like we have dark web, we have 8 years of dark web forum data, like 9 years or 8 years of dark web market data. We monitor 25,000 Telegram channels. We have info stealers. We have credentials. And so it's much more of a B2B. I have a lot of respect for Troy Hunt. I think he's built a really great thing over the years that's really helped a lot of people. So I am certainly saying nothing negative about Troy or Have I Been Pwned. It's just kind of different use cases for different objectives. We're used by everything from kind of like small to mid-sized business all the way up to like enterprise and MSSPs. So red teaming, pen testing, kind of continuous monitoring, those sort of use cases.
Yeah, like on a personal level, I'm a huge fan of Have I Been Pwned. Very awesome tool. Troy has done an amazing job with it. Flare is for the enterprise use case. Like if we will help you test the credentials in Entra if they happen. We have like a bunch of integrations with IDPs that we're actually doing a lot of work on now. So if a credential is leaked, we'll tell you if it works or not, and then if it does work, then we can help you do something about it with automations natively from Flare. And we show you the password because you might have to do that. So we reveal the raw data to you because this is an important part of the actual IR in enterprise. So different tools for different use cases, I'd say.
Thank you, guys. I got time for a few more questions here. One person's asking, some are saying some cybersecurity experts say that the rapid evolution of info stealers makes ZTA, particularly behavioral biometric authentication, more urgent and needed. But if session keys can be stolen, could user behaviors also be replicated or forged in some way?
It's an amazing question. Yes, totally. I mean, you can like get the rhythm of someone's entire day through an info stealer. Like you can put together a UBA style footprint of what they get up to if you have all of the activity from their device. Like literally drag and drop the browser history into an LLM and say, tell me what this person was up to. It'll be way too much for you to read on your own, and it would probably do that like reasonably effectively. I don't want to be giving bad guys ideas of how to use LLMs for cybercrime, but you get the idea. You don't have to get that creative to imagine how you could weaponize those things. But yes, forged in like in tooling, I don't know. I think this would have to be like you would have to manicure making the activity look the same by doing what you saw the user do. This would be like if you were a bad guy and you literally download like every process creation event that a person has done, and you make sure you're doing similar processes at the same times in similar apps and exfil their browser data. So like totally, you can recreate uh, uh, and try and skirt anomaly detection by not doing anomalous things as the user by like hiding it deeper within known activity. Um, So yes, very adversarial thinking. Well done. I hope you're a red teamer and not doing crimes.
They said terrifying but interesting, and I could not agree more.
Agreed.
Devo says or asks, could asymmetric encryption be used to protect the read of the cookie file? Browser has public key, private key to encrypt cookie file is stored in OS password manager or something.
Yeah, maybe. The thing is, I think that would like you would have to recognize when the cookie file is being called. You'd have to like decrypt it every time you load your browser, or you'd have to somehow hook into the browser's like I don't even know where the right place to do this would be. Like at the application level, but you'd have to recognize a request is being made and then decrypt like the either that cookie or your cookies at the time of retrieval. But like I think that's some good thinking, Devo. I bet there is a cool like something you could do there. I bet there's some interesting idea for like actually encrypting the cookie file at rest and only allowing it to be decrypted upon retrieval. But then just like make sure that whatever keys you're using are also not on the device because the info stealer will steal them also. So maybe you put them in like some kind of online secret store enterprise like secrets retrieval app and do it that way, or cook your own. But that's like really interesting thinking. I like the idea of trying to encrypt the cookie file to protect it, but um, it will have to be decrypted during browsing, or else I'm sure your browser would be mad a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here, sharing your time and knowledge with us. We really do appreciate it. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, could you guys go back through, let us know what are the best ways to contact y'all and stay in touch and ask more questions?
Eric, where can they find us?
Yeah, so they can find us on here. I'm going to link my LinkedIn if you want to do the same, Nick. I'll link it in the live chat in Discord and in Zoom. You guys are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I share all sorts of interesting cybercrime things occasionally. So would love to connect with you. You can also email me. I think Nick had my email up there. It's very simple, eric.clay@flare.io. Or you could join our community and we'll hang out there. We're doing more and more with our community. It's not as cool as Black Hills community yet, but one day it'll get there. So yeah, thank you so much for having us on, Zach. We really, really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. You guys have an amazing group here.
You guys are just as amazing. We appreciate you again sharing your time and knowledge with us. It was fantastic. I mean, all the comments and everything that we were seeing was great. I was paying attention. There was a lot of useful information that y'all shared today, and I love that how deep you kind of like dove into cookies. So and explained that it was just fantastic, man. Honestly, like I feel like a lot of people gained so much value from this. And I even
Thank
saw
you.
somebody saying that they want to share this with like their family and things like that, and I could totally see where this could just be that type of informative type of like, content for that anybody can consume and gain some information from, like there's just, I don't know, a lot of knowledge across the board that everybody can understand. So thank
Yeah,
you
thank you
for
so much.
delivering that,
Yeah,
especially in that way. You guys are fantastic.
we endeavor to do that. Like there's if you're familiar with all this stuff already, then there's tidbits in there for you. But like if you didn't know what a cookie was, now you do. So definitely share this kind of stuff with your family. There's a lot of cool slides in there that will help them recognize, you know, what is it probably trying to steal information and what isn't. Lionshare said is Octobrowser free or is it paid? I think there's a free version. There, it doesn't matter. Like there's so many anti-detect browsers that are free that like it doesn't if you wanted one for testing or red teaming, you could certainly find one. Not for crime. Don't do crime. Don't do
Okay.
crime.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll see some of you all from Flare in Deadwood. So if you guys are going to be joining us in Deadwood, South Dakota for Wild West Hackin' Fest, you'll see some of the Flare team there. Otherwise, make sure you connect with them on the social medias, join their Discord, check out their training. And yeah, thank you again. Appreciate your time. And of course, if you guys are interested to see what's happening here at Anti-Siphon Training, you can check out our live training calendar. We have some pay forward what you can workshops coming on this week, next week, and even the week after. So if you guys are interested in some really quick 4-hour workshops that are pay forward what you can, we'll gain a lot of information, walk away, feeling like you actually learned something. Definitely check out our workshops. They're a lot of fun and they're affordable. So thank you all again so much for joining us this week. Thank you again to Flare. And of course, thank you to all of you out there for sharing your time with us. We really do appreciate you all. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you all so much. We hope you have a great week, good weekend, and we will see you here next week, same time, same place. We'll have Fawn Russo talking about build a covert C2 channel. So see you all then. Take care and bye-bye, everybody. Kill it with fire, Ryan.